The coffee pot trembled in Chen's hand, not from nerves, but from the weight of carrying it for the last 6 hours straight. Steam curled upward like ghosts in the fluorescent lighting of Rosie's diner, a 24-hour establishment that sat at the crossroads of forgetting and remembering, where truck drivers nursed black coffee at 3 in the morning, where teenagers came after prom to laugh too loudly, where the lonely found company in the clatter of silverware and the hum of the ancient jukebox that only played songs from 1987. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in March, and the diner smelled like burnt toast, maple syrup, and the particular kind of exhaustion that settles into vinyl booth cushions after decades of absorbing human stories. Maya moved between tables with practiced efficiency, her sneakers squeaking against checkered linoleum that had been mopped so many times the pattern had faded to a suggestion of what it once was. "Refill, sweetheart?" she asked table 7, where an elderly woman sat with a crossword puzzle she'd been working on for 3 hours. The woman's name was Dorothy, and she came every Tuesday because her apartment was too quiet after her husband died. "Just a splash, dear. You're an angel." Maya smiled, the kind of smile she'd perfected over 8 years of waitressing. Genuine enough to feel real, practiced enough to protect her. She poured carefully, watching the dark liquid rise in the chipped ceramic mug that had somehow survived since the diner opened in 1962. The bell above the entrance chimed, bringing with it a gust of cold air that carried the scent of rain-soaked asphalt. Maya glanced up from Dorothy's table, her server instincts automatically cataloging the new arrival. Male, late 50s or early 60s, expensive wool coat now darkened by rain at the shoulders, a navy baseball cap pulled low over his face. He carried himself with the particular stiffness of someone in pain, one hand pressed against his ribs as he made his way to the corner booth. Table 12, the one with the crack in the vinyl that maintenance kept promising to fix. Maya finished with Dorothy and approached the coffee station, grabbing a fresh pot and a menu laminated so many times it was nearly opaque. She caught her reflection in the industrial coffee maker's chrome surface. 29 years old, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail that had started the shift neat but now listed slightly to the left. Green eyes that her mother used to say looked like sea glass, before her mother stopped saying anything at all. "Evening," Maya said, approaching table 12 with the menu and coffee pot. "Coffee to start?" The man didn't look up immediately. His hands were clasped on the table, and she noticed they were shaking. Not the tremor of age, but something more immediate, more desperate. Rain dripped from the brim of his cap onto the table's surface. "Please." His voice was rough, like gravel being sifted. "Black. And water. Please." Maya set down the menu and poured, noting how he wrapped both hands around the mug the moment she finished, seeking its warmth. She pulled her order pad from her apron pocket, the same apron that bore a faded stain from a ketchup incident 2 years ago that had become part of its character. "Take your time with the menu. I'll grab you that water." When she returned with a glass of ice water and a paper-wrapped straw, he still hadn't opened the menu. He'd removed his coat, revealing a white dress shirt that had probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent, now rumpled and bearing a small tear near the left cuff. The baseball cap remained firmly in place. "Sir, are you all right? Do you need me to call someone?" He looked up then, and Maya felt something shift in the air between them. A recognition that wasn't recognition, a familiarity that had no history. His eyes were gray, the color of storm clouds over the Pacific, and in them she saw something that made her take an involuntary step backward. Desperation mixed with determination, fear married to hope. "I need—" He stopped, pressing his hand against his ribs again. A sharp intake of breath. "I need the meatloaf special, and maybe some answers." Maya's customer service smile wavered. "The meatloaf I can make. Answers depend on the questions." "Fair enough." He attempted a smile, but it collapsed before fully forming. "Has anyone come in here looking for someone? Asking questions about the staff?" The question landed strangely in the space between them. Maya had been asked many things during her years at Rosie's, where the bathroom was, whether the pie was homemade, if she was single, if she had dreams bigger than this place, but never this. "Not that I know of." "Why?" He shook his head, water droplets flying from the cap's brim. "Doesn't matter. Forget I asked. Just the meatloaf, please." Extra gravy if that's possible. Maya wrote it down, her handwriting automatically neat despite her confusion. Coming right up. In the kitchen, she clipped the order to the wheel and watched it spin toward Marcus, the night cook who'd worked at Rosie's for 30 years and knew every regular's order by heart. He was humming along to the radio, some jazz station that played in the kitchen because Marcus said rock and roll made the eggs cook too fast. 12 wants meatloaf, extra gravy, Maya said, leaning against the counter that separated the kitchen from the server station. 12's been empty all night, Marcus replied, flipping a burger without looking. Got a late arrival. Strange one. Looks like he's running from something. Marcus glanced through the service window toward table 12. His expression shifted, something Maya couldn't quite read. Concern? Recognition? Passed too quickly to identify. You be careful with that one, Maya girl. Something about him feels important. Marcus had called her Maya girl since her first shift 8 years ago, when she'd been 21 and fresh from dropping out of community college because the money ran out and her mother got sick. He'd taught her how to carry 4 plates at once, how to read customers' moods in the way they held their menus, how to protect her heart while still being kind. Important how? But Marcus just shook his head and returned to the grill, the sizzle of meat punctuating whatever he'd left unsaid. If you're enjoying this story so far, it takes just a moment to hit that like button and subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more stories like Maya's. Now, back to what happens next. Maya refilled coffee for her other tables. A young couple whose conversation had the tentative excitement of a first or second date, 2 construction workers still dusty from their shift, an insomniac professor who graded papers in red ink that looked like wounds on the white pages. The diner's rhythm was familiar, comforting in its predictability. Pour, serve, clear, repeat. But her attention kept drifting to table 12, where the man sat absolutely still, staring at his hands like they held answers written in a language he'd forgotten how to read. When the meatloaf was ready, Maya loaded it onto a tray with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd carried thousands of meals from kitchen to table. The gravy boat, a ceramic piece shaped like a smiling cow that someone had donated in 1979, was filled to the brim. She added a side of green beans that Marcus had miraculously kept from being overcooked, a roll with butter, and the small dish of coleslaw that came with every dinner special. Here you go, she said, setting the plate before him. Careful, it's hot. He looked at the meal like it was a miracle. Thank you. Can I get you anything else? Sit with me, please, just for a minute. Maya's training screamed at her to decline politely. Servers didn't sit with customers, didn't blur the lines between service and companionship, didn't make themselves vulnerable to the kinds of complications that came from treating the job like anything other than what it was. A transaction of food for money, service for tips, smiles for survival. But something in his voice caught her. Snagged on a part of her heart she tried to keep protected. I've got other tables, she said. But even as she spoke, she was glancing around the diner. Dorothy was working her crossword. The couple was lost in each other. The construction workers were arguing good-naturedly about a basketball game. The professor had her own coffee pot at this point, self-sufficient as always. 1 minute, the man said. I'll make it worth your time. Maya pulled out her order pad and pen, a barrier between them, and slid into the opposite side of the booth. Up close, she could see the lines around his eyes, the gray threading through the dark hair visible beneath his cap, the expensive watch on his wrist. A Patek Philippe that she recognized only because one of her regular customers, a jewelry appraiser, had once shown her pictures of watches that cost more than houses. Clock's ticking, Maya said, trying to keep her tone light. He picked up his fork but didn't eat, just held it like an anchor. Do you believe in fate, Maya? Her name badge, plastic and pin slightly crooked, gave her away. But hearing him say it felt intimate, invasive. I believe in hard work and good tips, she replied. Fate's above my pay grade. He smiled then, really smiled, and it transformed his face from desperate to something approaching peaceful. Smart answer. I used to think like that. Thought everything was about strategy, planning, controlling variables. Then life laughed at me. Life's got a mean sense of humor sometimes. That's the truth. He finally took a bite of meatloaf, closing his eyes briefly. God, when was the last time I had real food? Not something made by a private chef, not something from a five-star restaurant where they serve foam and concepts instead of meals. This tastes like memory. Maya watched him eat, noting the way his shoulders gradually relaxed, how the tightness around his eyes eased with each bite. The diner specialized in comfort food not because it was trendy, but because Rosie, the original owner who died in 2003, had believed that people came to diners not just for food but for feeling, for the sensation of being cared for in the most basic, essential way. You said you needed answers, Maya prompted, checking her watch. What kind? He set down his fork and reached for his water, drinking half the glass before responding. Have you ever felt like you were living someone else's life? Like you woke up one day and realized everything you thought was real was actually just a very elaborate stage set? The question hit closer to home than he could know. Maya thought of her tiny apartment 3 blocks away, the medical bills still arriving for a mother 2 years dead, the community college degree she'd abandoned, the art portfolio gathering dust under her bed because there was no time to paint when survival demanded every hour. I think everyone feels that way sometimes, she said carefully. What if I told you that you could have a different life, that there was a door you didn't know existed, and behind it was everything you thought you'd lost? Maya's instincts flared: danger, scam, delusion. She'd seen enough strange behavior at the diner to recognize the signs of someone in crisis. She started to slide out of the booth. I should check on my other tables. Wait. His hand shot out but stopped short of touching her, hovering in the space between them. Please. I'm not crazy, though I know how this sounds. I'm not trying to recruit you into anything or sell you something. I came here because I had to. Because 30 years ago, I made a choice that I thought was right, and I've spent every day since wondering if I was wrong. The bell above the door chimed again. Maya looked up to see a woman entering. Late 40s, designer clothes that screamed money and power, perfectly styled blonde hair that hadn't been touched by the rain despite the weather. She scanned the diner with the precision of a predator, and when her eyes landed on table 12, her expression hardened. The man followed Maya's gaze and went rigid. No, not yet. I'm not ready. Who is that? Maya asked, but she was already standing, server instincts kicking in even as confusion swirled. Someone from my real life. Someone who'll take me back to the stage set. He looked up at Maya, and in his eyes, she saw something that would haunt her later. A father's love mixed with a stranger's desperation. Maya Chen, I need you to know something. I came here to find you. I came here because you're my daughter. The words dropped into the space between them like stones into still water, ripples spreading outward, distorting everything they touched. Maya's vision narrowed, the diner sounds becoming distant and distorted. The woman in designer clothes was approaching now, heels clicking purposefully against linoleum. That's impossible, Maya whispered. My father died before I was born. My mother told me. Your mother told you what she needed to tell you to protect you from me. He reached up and slowly removed his baseball cap, revealing a face that the entire world would recognize from magazine covers, news broadcasts, tech conference stages. My name is Daniel Whitmore, and I've been looking for you for 30 years. The world didn't stop spinning when impossible things happened. That was the first thought that crystallized in Maya's mind as she stood frozen beside table 12, her order pad clutched in a hand that had gone numb. The coffee pot in her other hand suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Daniel Whitmore, founder and CEO of Whitmore Technologies, the company that had revolutionized cloud computing and artificial intelligence, that had made self-driving cars a reality, that had a market cap larger than most nations' GDP. The man whose face appeared on the cover of Forbes, Time, Fortune. The man whose net worth was estimated at somewhere north of $40 billion. The man who was apparently claiming to be her father. Maya, are you all right? Dorothy's voice cut through the fog, concerned and grandmotherly. The entire diner had gone quiet, every patron's attention drawn to the tableau at table 12. Even the jukebox seemed to have paused between songs, waiting. The blonde woman reached them, and up close, Maya could see the carefully maintained facade, the subtle signs of excellent plastic surgery, the designer handbag that probably cost more than Maya's car, the diamond earrings that caught the diner's fluorescent light and threw tiny rainbows across the walls. "Daniel, we need to go. Now." The woman's voice was clipped, efficient, brooking no argument. She didn't even glance at Maya. "The board is in crisis mode. Your absence has triggered a 15% stock drop. We have damage control protocols that—" "Victoria, stop." "Daniel." It felt wrong to think of him by his first name, but what else could she call him? Held up a hand. His gaze remained locked on Maya's face, searching for something. Recognition? Resemblance? Belief? "I'm exactly where I need to be. In a diner? Having a breakdown." Victoria's perfectly maintained composure cracked slightly, revealing something beneath. Concern? Maybe? Or fear? "You disappeared 6 hours ago. You didn't take your security detail. You won't answer your phone. The media is speculating that you've had a heart attack, a stroke, been kidnapped. I'm talking to my daughter." The words, spoken aloud again, hit Maya like a physical force. Her legs moved automatically, carrying her backward until she collided with the counter behind her. The coffee pot slipped from her fingers and shattered against the floor, dark liquid spreading across the checkered linoleum like an ink stain, like a Rorschach test, like proof that this was really happening. Marcus burst through the kitchen door, dish towel in hand, ready to help clean the mess. He took one look at the scene. Maya's face drained of color, the man at table 12 who was somehow Daniel Whitmore, the woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a boardroom and into the wrong reality, and his expression shifted to something protective. "Maya girl, you need to sit down before you fall down." He guided her to a stool by the counter, his hands steady on her shoulders. To Victoria and Daniel, he said, "I don't know what's going on here, but this is my kitchen, and that's my girl you're upsetting. So whatever this is, it needs to happen somewhere else or not at all." "We're not trying to upset anyone," Daniel said, standing slowly, wincing as he moved. That pain in his ribs, whatever had caused it, was real. "I'm trying to right a wrong that's 30 years old." Maya found her voice, though it came out smaller than she wanted. "My father died in a car accident 3 months before I was born. My mother, Elizabeth Chen, told me that story my entire life. She showed me pictures of a man named Marcus Chen who was your uncle, your mother's brother. He died in that accident, yes. But he wasn't your father." Daniel took a step closer, and Maya saw Victoria tense, ready to intervene. "Your mother and I had a relationship in 1995. I was 24, just starting my company in a garage with 2 friends and a dream that seemed impossible. She was 22, a graduate student in art history, the most beautiful person I'd ever met. We were in love, or what I thought was love back then. The details felt too specific to be lies, too precise to be delusion." Maya's hands gripped the edge of the counter, knuckles white. "When your mother got pregnant, I panicked." Daniel's voice cracked, the veneer of billionaire CO falling away to reveal something raw beneath. "I was building something, I told myself. I had investors breathing down my neck, partners who said a family would be a distraction, a father who told me I had to choose between legacy and love. So I chose wrong. You left her." Maya's voice was hollow. "I offered money, a trust fund, lawyers to handle everything cleanly, distantly, without mess or emotion." Daniel's hands clenched into fists. "Your mother threw it back in my face. She said she'd rather raise you alone than let you grow up thinking love could be bought. She disappeared, changed her name, moved across the country, built a life where I couldn't find her. And she told you I was dead." Victoria stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Daniel, this is not the time or place. We have legal implications to consider, media strategy to develop, verification processes that need to—" "I don't care about any of that." The shout echoed through the diner, bouncing off vintage advertisements for milkshakes and burgers. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, the carefully maintained composure of a tech billionaire finally shattering completely. "I've spent 30 years caring about stock prices and market share and quarterly earnings. 30 years pretending that the choice I made at 24 didn't haunt me every single day. 30 years searching for a woman who didn't want to be found and the daughter I never got to know. Maya felt tears on her cheeks but couldn't remember starting to cry. Her mind was racing through her childhood like rewinding a film. Her mother's tiny apartment in Sacramento, the way Elizabeth had worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat, the free lunch program at school that Maya had been embarrassed about until her mother explained that accepting help wasn't weakness. The bedtime stories about a father who'd been brilliant and kind and taken too soon, a ghost made noble by absence. "My mother died 2 years ago," Maya said, and the words tasted like ash. "Pancreatic cancer. She went from diagnosis to gone in 4 months. Daniel's face crumpled. "Elizabeth is... I didn't know. I'm so sorry. She died in debt. Medical bills that I'm still paying off. She died in pain, working until 2 weeks before the end because we needed the money. She died without ever..." Maya's voice broke. "If you're who you say you are, if you're worth billions, she died struggling when you could have helped. She wouldn't take my help. I tried, Maya. When I finally found you, found both of you, 5 years ago I tried. I sent money anonymously through charities, through organizations I thought she couldn't trace back to me. She returned every penny." Marcus handed Maya a glass of water, his presence a steadying force. "You found them 5 years ago? I've had people looking for decades. Private investigators, data analysts, hackers I'll never publicly admit to employing. Your mother was smart. She covered her tracks beautifully. It wasn't until facial recognition software got sophisticated enough that we caught a break. A photo from a community art show in Sacramento 3 years ago. Elizabeth Chen, displaying watercolors. The algorithm matched her to photos from 1995. Maya thought of her mother's paintings, the ones that lined the walls of their apartment, the ones Maya had boxed up after the funeral because seeing them was too painful. Elizabeth had never sold any, never displayed them anywhere but local libraries and community centers where the entry fee was nothing and the audience was neighbors who appreciated beauty without needing to own it. "So you've been watching us? Watching me?" The violation of it settled into Maya's bones. "Trying to figure out how to approach you, how to explain, how to apologize for 30 years of absence." Daniel reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a battered photograph, its edges worn soft from handling. He set it on the counter between them. Maya leaned forward despite herself. The photo showed 2 young people sitting on grass, a campus building visible in the background. The man was younger, recognizably Daniel Whitmore before age and wealth had refined his features. The woman was Elizabeth Chen before illness had stolen her vitality, laughing at something beyond the frame, her hand resting on a small bump visible beneath her sundress. "Your mother? 6 months pregnant with you. She didn't know I took that picture. I carried it for years until I couldn't bear to look at it anymore, the reminder of what I'd thrown away. Then I spent years trying to find it again, going through boxes in storage until I did." Maya picked up the photo with shaking hands. She'd never seen her mother look that way. Young, unguarded, happy in a way that seemed impossible when Maya thought of the tired, determined woman who'd raised her. "Why now?" Maya asked. "Why tonight? Why show up at my work and blow apart my entire understanding of reality?" Daniel's expression darkened. "Because I'm dying." The words landed like a hammer. Victoria closed her eyes, confirming what Daniel had said. Marcus muttered something under his breath that sounded like a prayer. "I have pancreatic cancer," Daniel continued, and the cosmic irony wasn't lost on anyone. "Same thing that killed Elizabeth. Diagnosed 3 months ago. The doctors give me 6 months to a year, maybe less. I've got the best oncologists money can buy, the most cutting-edge treatments, clinical trials that aren't available to the public. But I'm also a realist. I've spent my life calculating odds, assessing probabilities. And the probability that I beat this is hovering around 12%. Maya's world tilted again. "You came here to die? To what? Ease your conscience before." "I came here because I wanted to know you. Because I'm tired of being Daniel Whitmore, the tech genius, the billionaire, the man who changed the world. I wanted to be a father, even if it's 30 years too late. Even if you hate me. Even if I only get a few months to know the person my daughter became despite my absence." He paused, vulnerability written across every line of his face. I came here because dying with regrets is one thing, but dying without at least trying to fix them is another. The diner had remained silent throughout this exchange. Every patron now invested in a drama that rivaled any television show. Dorothy was crying quietly into a napkin. The young couple held hands across their table. Even the construction workers had stopped eating, their food forgotten. Maya's mind was a hurricane of emotions. Anger at being lied to her entire life, grief for the mother who'd kept such a massive secret, confusion about what any of this meant, and beneath it all, a dangerous flicker of hope that she immediately tried to extinguish. I don't know you, she said finally. You're a stranger who happens to share DNA with me. That doesn't make you my father. You're right, it doesn't. Daniel's voice was soft. But I'd like the chance to try to earn that title if you'll let me. No strings, no obligations. I don't want to buy your love or your forgiveness. I just want time. Whatever time I have left. Victoria stepped forward again, her role as protector and advisor evident. Daniel, you need to think about the implications. If this becomes public before we have proper verification, proper legal framework, the company's stock will. I don't care about the stock. Daniel's shout was quieter this time, but no less intense. Let it drop to zero. Let the board have their panic attacks. Let the media speculate. For once in my life, I'm making a choice based on something other than market analysis and profit margins. Maya stood, her legs steadier now, the initial shock beginning to metabolize into something else. Not acceptance, not yet, but a willingness to at least hear more. I need proof, not just a photo, not just a story. I need actual proof that you're who you say you are, that my mother, that everything I thought I knew isn't just being replaced with a different set of lies. If this story is keeping you hooked, please take a second to like and share it with someone who loves emotional twists. It really helps us continue creating content like this. Let's see what proof Daniel has. Of course. Daniel nodded immediately. DNA test, medical records, whatever you need. I brought documentation. He gestured to Victoria, who reluctantly pulled out a tablet from her bag. Birth certificates, court records from when your mother legally changed both your names, private investigator reports from over the years, financial records showing the money I tried to send that she returned. It's all here. Maya looked at the tablet like it was a bomb. I can't process this right now. I'm at work. I have tables to serve, orders to take. My life doesn't stop just because you've decided to walk into it. I understand. What if I stay? Daniel gestured to table 12. I'll sit right here. I'll order more coffee. I'll wait until your shift ends. Then, if you're willing, we can talk. Really talk. No pressure, no expectations. Victoria looked like she might physically drag Daniel out of the diner, but something in his expression must have warned her off. She turned to Maya instead, and for the first time really looked at her, not as an obstacle or a problem to be managed, but as a person. I've known Daniel for 15 years, Victoria said. I've never seen him like this. I've never seen him care about anything more than his work. So whatever you decide, know that this matters to him. Maybe the only thing that's ever really mattered. Maya wanted to be moved by that. She wanted to feel something other than the overwhelming exhaustion that had settled over her like a weighted blanket. Instead, she just nodded and turned to Marcus. I need to finish my shift. You sure, Maya girl? We can call someone in. You've had a shock. I'm sure. Work helps. Routine helps. She looked back at Daniel. You can stay. But I can't promise I'll want to talk after. I can't promise anything. That's fair. That's more than fair. Daniel settled back into table 12, putting his baseball cap back on like armor. Thank you. The diner slowly came back to life, conversations resuming in hushed tones, forks scraping against plates. Maya picked up her order pad and moved through the familiar motions of her job, taking comfort in the routine. She refilled coffee for Dorothy, cleared plates from the construction workers, brought the check to the young couple, who left a generous tip and sympathetic smiles. But every few minutes, her eyes drifted to table 12, where Daniel Whitmore sat nursing cold coffee and waiting. Victoria had left, though not before pressing a business card into Maya's hand with instructions to call if she needed anything. Legal advice, medical records, answers to questions she didn't know how to ask yet. Marcus kept close, his protective presence a comfort. During a rare quiet moment, he pulled Maya aside near the pie display case where 6 different varieties sat under glass domes. "You doing okay?" "I don't know what I am," Maya admitted. "My entire life just got rewritten. Everything my mom told me, everything I believed about where I came from, it was all a story, a lie, or a different kind of truth," Marcus offered gently. "Your mama loved you. That wasn't a lie. She worked herself to the bone for you. That wasn't a lie. Maybe she told you what you needed to hear to grow up without the shadow of a father who'd walked away. Maybe she was protecting you from exactly this, from the complication of a man who could buy countries by showing up and turning your life upside down. Or maybe she was selfish. Maybe she kept me from a father who could have given me opportunities she never could. Education, travel, a life that didn't involve working double shifts and wondering how to pay rent. Maybe. Or maybe she knew that money doesn't make a father. That presence and love and showing up every day is what matters. And he didn't do that, Maya. Whatever his reasons, however noble his explanation, he made a choice 30 years ago to walk away. Maya leaned against the counter, watching Daniel through the service window. He'd pulled out his phone but wasn't looking at it, just held it like a talisman. Every few seconds, his hand would drift to his ribs again, that unconscious gesture of pain. "He's dying," she said softly. "Same thing that killed Mom. What are the odds of that? Life's funny that way. Not haha funny, but cruel funny. Ironic and funny." Marcus handed her a slice of apple pie, her favorite. "Eat something. You've been running on fumes." Maya took the pie to the back room, the small space where servers could catch 5 minutes of peace between rushes. The room was barely more than a closet, with a beat-up couch that smelled like decades of cigarette smoke from before the smoking ban, a bulletin board covered in notices about schedule changes and health inspections, and a time clock that had been broken for 3 years but no one bothered to replace because everyone just wrote their hours on a sheet anyway. She sat on the couch and took a bite of pie. The sweetness of apples and cinnamon, the flaky crust that Marcus's wife made fresh every morning. It was exactly what she needed. A small piece of normalcy in a night that had become surreal. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. A text from her best friend, Jenna. "Still on for tomorrow? Movie night at my place. Tomorrow." Such a simple concept that now felt impossible to grasp. Tomorrow when she might have a father. Tomorrow when her entire identity might be different. Tomorrow when she'd have to decide whether to believe a billionaire stranger or hold onto the memory of the mother who'd built her life on what Maya now knew to be incomplete truths. She texted back, "Maybe? Weird night. We'll explain later." The shift crawled toward its end. At 2 a.m., the diner emptied out except for Daniel at table 12 and the professor, who'd finally packed up her papers and left with a distracted wave. Maya finished her side work, refilling salt shakers, restocking sugar packets, folding napkins into neat triangles that would be unfolded and used by tomorrow's customers. Marcus cleaned the grill, the familiar scrape of metal against metal a soundtrack to Maya's racing thoughts. When he finished, he hung up his apron and came out to the dining area, addressing Daniel directly for the first time. "I'm going to tell you something, Mr. Whitmore. I've known Maya since she was 21 years old. I watched her drop out of school to take care of her mama. I watched her work 16-hour days to pay medical bills. I watched her cry in that back room on the days when the weight of it all was too much, and I watched her dry her tears and go back out there with a smile because that's who she is. She's strong because she had to be. She's kind because her mama taught her to be. She's still here, still fighting, still showing up every day because that's what survivors do." Daniel listened without interrupting, his full attention on Marcus. "Now you show up with your billions and your sob stories and your convenient terminal diagnosis. Maybe it's all true. Maybe you really are her father. Maybe you really do regret the choices you made. But understand this. You don't get to walk into her life and disrupt the peace she's built. You don't get to demand forgiveness or understanding or even basic courtesy. You get what she's willing to give when she's willing to give it and nothing more. You're right, Daniel said simply. On all counts. Marcus nodded, satisfied. He turned to Maya, who'd been watching from the counter. I'm heading out. You want me to wait? Drive you home? No, I'm okay. I'll finish up here. Your call, Maya girl. But you call me if you need anything. Anything at all. Day or night. Marcus gave Daniel one more measuring look, then left, the bell chiming his departure. And then it was just the two of them, Maya and Daniel, Waitress and Billionaire, daughter and stranger. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, and somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. Maya poured herself a cup of coffee, then crossed to table 12 and sat down across from Daniel. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the street slick and reflective, puddles mirroring neon signs from the pawn shop next door and the 24-hour pharmacy across the street. Okay, she said. Let's talk. The conversation started with the easy questions: medical history, family background, the kind of information that might appear on forms at a doctor's office. Daniel answered each question precisely, pulling up documents on his phone when Maya asked for proof. Genetic test results he'd had done years ago in preparation for this moment, photographs from his past that matched the ones her mother had kept hidden in a box under her bed, financial records showing the trust fund he'd established in Maya's name when she was born, one she'd never known existed. It's been accruing interest for 29 years, Daniel explained, zooming in on a bank statement. Currently worth about $8 million. I added to it every year on your birthday. Your mother never touched it, probably never even knew it existed under your birth name before she changed it. $8 million. The number was so large it didn't feel real. Maya thought about the times she'd eaten ramen for a week straight to save money, the winter she'd kept the heat at 55 degrees because the gas bill was too high, the scholarship applications she'd filled out went nowhere because her grades had slipped when her mother got sick and dying people needed their daughters more than daughters needed perfect GPAs. I don't want it, Maya said, though her voice lacked conviction. It feels like payment, like you're trying to buy something that should have been freely given. It's not payment. It's what I should have provided all along. Child support, college tuition, a safety net. Daniel closed his phone and set it on the table between them. But I understand if you don't want it. Can sit there forever. Or you can donate it. Or you can use it to build the life your mother would have wanted for you. Maya's hands wrapped around her coffee mug, seeking warmth. What life did she want for me? I don't know. I didn't get the chance to ask her. Pain flickered across Daniel's face. Not physical this time, but something deeper. What do you want, Maya? If money wasn't an issue, if you could do anything, what would you choose? The question was so unexpected that Maya almost laughed. No one had asked her that in years. Since her mother's diagnosis, life had been about survival, not dreams. Before that, it had been about taking care of Elizabeth, about working enough hours to keep them afloat. Dreams were luxuries for people who had the bandwidth to imagine futures beyond next month's rent. I wanted to be an artist, she said finally, the admission feeling like pulling out a splinter that had been buried for years. I was going to study fine arts. I had a portfolio, scholarship applications, plans to transfer to a 4-year school. Then Mom got sick, and I had to choose between my dreams and her life. It wasn't really a choice. Do you still paint? No time. No space. No energy left after shift's end. She paused. No belief that it matters anymore. Daniel leaned forward, and in the harsh diner lighting, Maya could see every line on his face, every mark left by 3 decades of choices and consequences. Your mother was talented, really talented. If she'd had opportunities, if she hadn't had to work 3 jobs to raise you alone, she could have been someone whose work hung in galleries. She was someone, Maya said sharply. She was my mother. She was enough. You're right. I'm sorry. That came out wrong. Daniel rubbed his face with both hands. I'm not good at this. I'm used to boardrooms and presentations, speaking in data points and strategic initiatives. I don't know how to talk to you. My daughter. The words still felt strange between them, too big and too small simultaneously. Tell me about the pain, Maya said, nodding toward his ribs. You keep touching the same spot. Daniel's hand moved there unconsciously, then dropped. I fell. Earlier tonight, before I came here, I was in my penthouse 30 floors up, looking at the city I helped build. All those buildings using our security systems, our infrastructure, our technology. And I realized I didn't recognize any of it. It was like looking at someone else's life. So I left. Just walked out. Didn't tell my security team, didn't take the company car. Just walked. And fell. I was hurrying down a subway staircase. Slipped on wet steps. Hit hard. Probably cracked a rib. He smiled ruefully. The great Daniel Whitmore, brought low by rain and gravity. There's a metaphor in there somewhere. You should see a doctor. I've seen enough doctors for a lifetime. What's one more cracked rib compared to cancer eating me from the inside? The bitterness in his voice was raw. I'm sorry. That was unfair. You didn't ask to be burdened with a dying father's existential crisis. Maya stood abruptly, moving to the kitchen and returning with ice wrapped in a clean towel. Here. For the swelling. Daniel accepted it with surprise, pressing it gently to his side. Thank you. Don't read into it. I'd do the same for any customer who was hurt. But even as Maya said it, she knew it was a lie. This wasn't about customer service. This was about something older, something cellular, the impulse to care for someone whose DNA spiraled inside her own cells. They sat in silence for several minutes. The only sounds the hum of refrigeration units and the distant rumble of a late-night bus passing on the street outside. Maya watched Daniel's face, looking for herself in his features. The gray eyes, hers were green, but the shape was similar. The stubborn set of the jaw. The way his left eyebrow arched slightly higher than the right when he was thinking. Something she'd been told she did since childhood. What happens now? Maya asked. Let's say I believe you. Let's say I agree to acknowledge that we're related. Then what? Do I quit my job and move into your penthouse? Do we do awkward family dinners where we pretend we know each other? Do you teach me about the tech industry and I teach you how to refill sugar packets? What's the protocol here? There is no protocol. I've spent months planning how to find you, how to approach you, what to say. But I never planned beyond this moment. Daniel set down the ice pack, wincing. I suppose I hoped you'd want to know me. That curiosity, if nothing else, might bridge the gap between us. I could tell you about your grandparents, my parents, who died 5 years ago without ever knowing they had a granddaughter. I could show you the company I built, explain the technology that changed the world, introduce you to a life you never knew existed. And in return? In return, I get to know you. The real you, not the speculation and private investigator reports. I get to understand what makes you laugh, what keeps you up at night, whether you like jazz or rock or neither, if you read fiction or nonfiction, if you dream in color or black and white. I get to be your father, even if it's only for the time I have left. Maya felt something crack inside her chest, a fissure in the protective wall she'd built around her heart. I'm angry, she said. I'm so angry at you for leaving. I'm angry at Mom for lying. I'm angry at the universe for giving you billions of dollars and taking her away in debt. I'm angry that you get to show up now, when it's convenient for you, when you're dying and need absolution. I'm angry that I even care. That part of me wants to say yes, wants to know you, wants to have a father for the first time in my life. Your anger is valid. All of it. Don't treat me. Don't be understanding and patient. Be human. Be as messy and confused as I feel right now. Maya's voice rose, weeks and months and years of carefully controlled emotion finally breaking free. Tell me you're scared. Tell me you regret every single day of the past 30 years. Tell me you'd give up every dollar, every achievement, every accolade just to go back and make a different choice. Daniel's composure finally shattered completely. Tears streamed down his face, and he made no attempt to hide them. I'm terrified. I'm dying. And I've accomplished nothing that matters. I've changed the world, but I don't know my own daughter. I've built an empire, but I can't build a relationship with the most important person I never knew. I would give it all, every penny, every patent, every moment of glory, to go back to 1995 and choose differently. To choose Elizabeth. To choose you. To choose love over legacy. The words hung in the air between them, honest and devastating. Maya felt her own tears falling, hot and fast, all the grief she'd carried for her mother mixing with this strange new loss. The loss of the life she might have had, the father she might have known, the family that could have been. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she whispered. "I don't know if I even want to try. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for time. Whatever you're willing to give." Daniel reached across the table, his hand stopping inches from hers, waiting for permission. "I'm asking for a chance to get to know you before I run out of chances." Maya looked at his outstretched hand. Manicured nails, expensive watch, the hand of someone who'd never done manual labor, who'd built empires with keystrokes and algorithms instead of sweat and calluses. It was nothing like her mother's hands had been, paint-stained and work-worn, beautiful in their functionality. But it was her father's hand. The hand of someone who was, impossibly, her family. She placed her hand in his. The touch was electric, a completion of a circuit that had been open for 29 years. Daniel's fingers closed around hers gently, reverently, like he was holding something precious and fragile. "Thank you," he breathed. They sat like that for a moment, hands clasped across the scarred formica table at table 12 in a diner that had witnessed countless moments of human connection over 63 years of existence. Outside, the city was beginning its slow transformation from night to dawn, that liminal hour when anything seemed possible. "I need time," Maya said, not pulling her hand away but not tightening her grip either. "I need to process this. I need to look at your evidence, do my own research, maybe talk to a therapist who specializes in family trauma or long-lost parent syndrome or whatever category this falls under. Of course, whatever you need. And I need you to understand that I might never call you Dad. I might never feel comfortable in your world. I might take that money and donate every cent to cancer research in my mother's name and never speak to you again. I understand. But I'm willing to try, to get to know you, to see if there's something here worth building, even if we're building it on a foundation that started with abandonment and lies and 30 years of absence." Maya took a shaky breath. "I'm willing to give you time, Daniel. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve to know where I came from. I deserve to understand my own story, even the painful parts." Daniel nodded, not trusting himself to speak. The relief on his face was profound, transformative. Maya withdrew her hand and stood, suddenly exhausted. "My shift ended 20 minutes ago. I need to go home. Sleep. Pretend that tonight was a strange dream that won't make sense in the morning. Can I?" Daniel stood as well, moving carefully around the pain in his ribs. "Can I give you my number? Can we schedule a time to meet again? Somewhere neutral. Somewhere you feel safe." Maya pulled out her phone, a 3-year-old model with a cracked screen protector she kept meaning to replace. Daniel recited his personal number, the one that Victoria had probably yelled at him for giving out to a stranger. Except Maya wasn't a stranger. She was his daughter. "I'll text you," Maya said. "Give me a few days, maybe a week. I need to think. Take all the time you need." They stood facing each other, the full weight of the moment settling around them. Then, impulsively, Daniel pulled her into a hug. Maya stiffened, then slowly relaxed, her face pressed against his expensive shirt that smelled like rain and some cologne she didn't recognize in something else. Something that her body seemed to recognize on an instinctive level. "I'm so sorry," Daniel whispered into her hair. "For everything. For all of it." Maya didn't respond, just allowed herself to be held for a moment by this stranger who was her father. Then she pulled back, wiping her eyes, gathering the pieces of her composure. "Go home, Daniel. Get that rib checked. Take your medication. Don't die before I figure out if I want you in my life." He laughed, a sound caught between humor and heartbreak. "I'll do my best." Maya walked him to the door, unlocking it from the inside. The sky outside was beginning to lighten, that peculiar pre-dawn blue that promised a new day. Daniel pulled his coat on, wincing again, and settled the baseball cap low over his face. "For what it's worth," he said, pausing at the threshold. "Your mother raised someone extraordinary. Whatever choices she made, whatever lies she told, she did something right. You're everything I hoped you'd be. You don't know me well enough to say that. Maybe not, but I'd like to, if you'll let me. Maya watched him walk down the street, a billionaire tech mogul limping slightly, hailing a taxi that appeared as if summoned by wealth and privilege. The cab pulled away, and then he was gone, leaving Maya alone in the doorway of Rosie's diner with a truth too large to hold and a future too uncertain to imagine. She locked the door and finished her closing duties on autopilot, counting out her till, dividing tips, wiping down tables one last time. When everything was clean and ready for the morning shift, she grabbed her coat and her purse and stepped out into the early morning. The walk home took 15 minutes, through streets she knew like the lines on her palm. But everything looked different now, filtered through the knowledge that she was Daniel Whitmore's daughter, that she had $8 million in a bank account she'd never accessed, that her entire identity had been rewritten in the space of a single shift. Her apartment was exactly as she'd left it. Tiny, cluttered with the accumulated debris of a life lived without enough space or time. She dropped her purse, kicked off her shoes, and stood in the center of the main room, looking at her mother's paintings on the walls. Elizabeth Chen smiled down from a photograph on the bookshelf, taken during a good day near the end, when the pain medication was working and the sun was shining. Maya picked up the frame, tracing her mother's face with one finger. "Did you do the right thing?" she asked the photograph. "Keeping him from me? Keeping me from him? Was it protection or punishment?" The photograph didn't answer. The dead rarely do. Maya set it down gently and moved to her bedroom, pulling the art portfolio from under her bed. She opened it carefully, revealing paintings and sketches from years ago, before her mother got sick, before dreams became impractical, before survival became the only goal that mattered. The work was good. Not brilliant, not prodigy level, but good enough. Good enough to have been something, if life had been different, if choices had been different. She pulled out her phone and opened to Daniel's contact information. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, composing and deleting a dozen messages before settling on something simple. "I'm willing to try. Coffee next week? Somewhere that isn't my workplace." The response came within 30 seconds, as if he'd been waiting. "Thank you. Anytime, anywhere. I'll be there." Maya set down her phone and lay back on her bed, still wearing her diner uniform that smelled like coffee and grease, and 30 years of questions finally finding their answers. She didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know if she could truly forgive Daniel Whitmore for his absence, or Elizabeth Chen for her lies, or the universe for its cruel ironies. She didn't know if 6 months or a year would be enough time to build something meaningful, or if they'd just end up as strangers who happened to share DNA and regrets. But she knew this. She was Maya Chen, daughter of Elizabeth Chen and Daniel Whitmore, waitress and artist, survivor and seeker, angry and hopeful and terrified and brave. And that was enough. For now it was enough. Outside her window, the sun finally broke over the horizon, painting the Sacramento sky in shades of gold and pink. A new day was beginning. For Maya, so was everything else. Thank you for following Maya's journey. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe for more emotional stories. What do you think Maya should do next? Let us know in the comments below.